Good evening out there. How you guys doing? In the Spotlight Podcast, episode 17. I got a very, very special guest tonight, man. I knew this brother ever since we were young, but I saw this brother speak about a week and a half ago, and I said I had to get him on the show, man. I want to bring you guys Shane West from West Point Workout. He has his own training company, man. Shane, thanks for coming on tonight, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure. It's an honor, man. I take that to heart. I truly am grateful. It's always a blessing when someone want to hear my story. They take the time out and give me their ears, bro. It's always a blessing. Thank you for having me.
Indeed, brother. Once I heard you, I had brought my kids down from my job to Ryder, and you spoke. And I was like, man, I got to get you on. But I got to give a shout out to Ray Glenn, who we're going to talk about in a little while, because he's been telling me about I need to have you on for a while, brother. And I'm just blessed that have you on, man. So let's start it from the beginning, man. Talk about growing up in Wilbur section in Trenton, man. Take us back there.
Oh man, growing up in Wilbur section, it was a blessing, man. What most would think as a curse, I took as a blessing. When you grow up in impoverished communities like that, especially, I grew up in Wilbur section in the 80s and 90s, where Wilbur section really took hold to that reputation as sticking together, family oriented, all for one for all. I like to compare Wilbur section in the era in which I grew up in to like the movie 300. We were all like Spartan warriors. As a kid, they nurtured our toughness. We grew up, sticking up for each other. We grew up, if I had and my friend didn't, then we both had. Right? We looked out for each other. A lot of my principles and some of my great characteristics were developed through growing up in Wilbur section. It's like most impoverished communities, man. I mean, you have drug addiction, you have violence, you have gang activity, you have drug dealing. You name it, man. Negative things ran rampant in that community, in that city, like most neighborhoods in cities that are built upon impoverishment.
What was your family structure like in the house?
That's a great question, because I usually like to start off breaking that down, because my mother and my father, they was married, right? But they were married to two other people. They weren't married to each other. My mother, her husband and her, they were separated. However, they were married. And I stayed in the household with my mother, my two older sisters, who were 8 and 10 years my senior, and my stepfather. My biological father, he and his wife were supposedly in a happy marriage. At least that's what he probably thought. But he kept me a secret, my entire life. I grew up not knowing my dad's side of the family majority of my life. My dad was instrumental. He was in my life. He could have been in my life a lot more, if you ask me. But growing up in my household, you had my mother. She was a very hardworking woman. I think I get some of my work ethic, my discipline from my mother. I never seen her miss a day at work. She had one job her entire adult life. When she graduated from Trenton High, she worked for New Jersey Bell, which became Bell Atlantic. I believe then became Verizon. But my stepfather, he suffered from alcoholism. And he was a great man. I mean, loving man, probably the most loving individual I ever met in my life. In fact, he was there when I was delivered. In fact, my last name used to be Dukes. I had his last name. And people in the neighborhood thought that he was my biological father. He protected me. In my opinion, I thought he loved me more than his own biological daughters. Right? He was truly like my best friend. He took me everywhere in the neighborhood, but like I said, he suffered from alcoholism. So I would always see him and my mother arguing with my stepfather. He never argued, never raised his voice. But my mom was finding alcohol in any place you can imagine. He was great at hiding alcohol, but she was greater at finding it.
I can relate. I can relate.
And she tried her best to kick him out. He never would leave. He wouldn't leave until one day he did eventually. But I grew up poor. I didn't grow up poor. Like, my mom took care of all of our needs. Out of my wants.
Mm-hmm.
The things that I did want, my mom would, use that as a motivating for me to do right. So I got
Indeed.
grades in school because I got rewarded. I
Mm-hmm.
hated school, but I got all A's and B's. I was a
Mm-hmm.
student. I was gifted and talented, but I knew that a pair of Jordans was coming with those A's and B's.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And then not for nothing, I'm an extremist. Whatever I put my name on, I'm gonna give everything I have. Even though I hated school, I say I'm gonna be the best student in the classroom, the best student in the school if I can be.
Indeed, I'm the same way. Now your art soon became basketball. Let's talk about when you first got introduced to the game and playing basketball in Trenton, in the young early days.
Well, basketball in the 80s and 90s was like the holy grail in the state of New Jersey, right? We known for basketball, right? And Trenton was like, a major city when it came to basketball. And fortunately for me, my backyard, you could literally walk out my backyard gate and be in the park.
Wow.
See, so I got kind of like I got both sides of it, because in the neighborhood park, you hear the gunshots, you see the gunshots, you see the fiends getting high, right? You see the violence, but to the left of my bedroom window, to the left of my backyard, was 94 feet of concrete, right? Basketball court, right? And I like to think that God blessed me with some athleticism, right? But I wasn't that great when I started playing basketball. But what I did know about basketball was I loved it, right? As soon as I got on the court, it was like I was a fish in water, right? As soon as I got on the court, it was like the basketball court was my canvas, and I was somebody like Picasso. Then as soon as I got on the court, I realized like the basketball court was like a sanctuary for everything that was going on in my head, because I lived in my head a lot, being a secret, right? Growing up poor. I realized basketball gave me an outlet, right? Extremist. So I wasn't really that good. I had some decent athleticism, but I wanted to be great, right? So I just was relentless with my pursuit. And I met a coach eventually by the name of Tom Caldwell. Who, shout out to Mr. Caldwell, was just his birthday. And once he kind of gave me some guidance, he showed me some drills, gave me some tools. Man, I was right at it like a construction worker, working every day on my game. If you heard the basketball dribbling at night, it was me, right? If you heard the basketball dribbling early in the morning, it was me. Because back in those days, you could not get the basketball court to yourself. So I had to get up early in the morning or late at night, and that's why I worked on my game.
Indeed, Mr. Caldwell helped out a lot of kids early on in their basketball careers, man. Real good dude. So now you go through Trenton in middle school and stuff like that, and then it's time for you to go to high school. Your first stop was PDS, Princeton Day School. Now, how did that come about?
Oh man, I always grew up wanting to play for Trenton High. Every kid I know from Trenton that was playing basketball dreamed of running out of the tunnel. Right? I mean, I used to go and watch the games in the 80s when when Trenton High in the early 90s when they had Trenton make World Takes Bridge on their jersey. I grew up 2 blocks from Trenton High. I knew I was destined to play for Trenton High. And it never happened. Right? Going in my middle school years, I really started coming into my own. I became one of the best players in the city. In my opinion, I was the best.
I love it. I love it.
The best. So I started getting interest from different high schools, whether it was prep schools, Catholic schools, and the head coach, Randy Morrison, found out that I was getting recruited by these schools. So one day he popped up at my house.
Wow, okay.
He popped up at my house. I'm not even in high school yet. And he's trying to convince my mother to send me to Trenton High, right? And they had a camp. They were going to St. Joe's camp. And he like, yo, we want him to come to the varsity team. And I'm excited. I'm like, yo, I'm going to be varsity. But at the same time, it was a camp at Trenton State, which is now in the College of New Jersey. And I ran into Greg Grant there. Greg from my neighborhood, you know what I mean? He's a legend, right? So with that being said, Greg like, man, I want you to come to my camp. Free. So the camp with Mr. Morrison, I had to pay.
Okay.
So, yeah, we were poor, but we weren't poor. But so I told my mom, I'm gonna go to the free camp.
Yeah.
It's Greg Morrison, Greg, NBA player, high school coach. I'm going with NBA player, right? So I go to Princeton Day camp, and by far I'm head and shoulders better than everybody there. So the head coach comes to me and he's like, look, man, I know you're a great player, but how's your grades? I'm like, how are my grades? See, he ain't understand that, at a very young age, I used to have to take the mice out my house, right? He didn't understand at a very young age, our ceiling used to cave in whenever it would rain, right? See, he didn't understand that my plumbing system consisted of us filling up a bucket of water in the tub and flushing the toilet. So how was my grades? I had to have good grades because I had to go to the NBA, right? I knew that I had to go to college. Now, to get good grades to go to the NBA, I'm a straight A student. I'm an honor student. So once they found out that I could make the grades, he like, yo, we would love to have you. You're going to play varsity as a freshman. And I'm like, I'm not going no Princeton Day. I'm going to But then Greg came and, whatever Greg said was like Bible. It was like the law, right? So he's like, man, I think this is a great opportunity for you. You're going to get a lot of playing time here. It's a great academic institution, right? It's great for your education. So I went there.
Indeed. Shout out to him for giving you that direction, man. Now you arrive at PDS. How was the adjustment socially, academically, and on the court? How was the adjustment?
Oh, man, it was tough. All of it. All of it was tough, right? It was a culture shock. See, I grew up playing football in the Hamilton Football League. Football was my first sport. Right? So I grew up playing and socializing with white kids. But this was a totally different environment. These kids were wealthy. They were privileged. Man, the school had carpet. Bro, it was 12 kids in each classroom, right? In Trenton public schools, I don't even got to study, and I get A's, right? When I go to Princeton Day, bro, like a C for me was an A+. I got to take one time I got embarrassed, right? I had to give an oral presentation, and I thought I did well, but not as well as the teacher would have liked. And it kind of put me on the spot, and I actually had to go to academic court for it. So with that being said, I said, man, I'm never going to feel like that again. So what I would do is I miss those wide parties, right? I wouldn't hang out as much because I got to keep my nose in the book because I ain't going to be embarrassed again. So I had to put in extra hours just so I could get a C. The coach tried to make me, back then they didn't have a word for it, reclass, but he wanted me to stay back a year so I could catch up academically. But I was trying to get out of high school. And then on the basketball court, it didn't go as well as I would like. Now, I was a freshman. I played varsity. I got a lot of spot minutes. I thought I should have been starting. Eric Boyd, if you're watching, he probably disagreed. Right now, he was just starting.
I know Eric Boyd.
Yeah, he was the starting point guard. He was a senior, but I was a freshman. Bro, you know, I used to be cooking you, Eric Boyd. I'd be cooking him. Wow. Cooking him in practice, man. But nah, in all seriousness, man, I wanted more playing time, right? My head coach, David First, he was hard-nosed, but I was used to playing for hard-nosed coaches, right? So I enjoyed that. And then going into my sophomore year, I became the full-time starter, but David First had left. He wanted me to come with him to Tabor Academy, but I wasn't going that far. But then my sophomore year, like basketball, I flourished. Like I led the team in almost every statistical category, scoring, assists. You know, I was the leader. So I was flourishing basketball, but culturally and socially, I wanted to lead that school every day.
So then, after your time there, you decide to go to St. Benedict's in North. Now, how did all of this come into play? How did all of this transpire, brother? Okay, well, you know, Rayshawn Glenn, who's a basketball legend, played at Hun. Hun was one of the schools that was trying to get me there. He's family. So, you know, back in those days when I was playing, we didn't have AAU basketball the way it is now, right? So Ray Glenn got me and my friend Dawood Kennedy, who was a beast, arguably the best player in the area at the time, right? He got us a tryout for the North Rams, one of the top AAU programs in the state and nationally, right? So he's like, yo, I got y'all a tryout. All y'all got to do is jump on the train and go try out. Right, so boom, I tell Dawood, and he's psyched, like he's ready. But the following day, when it was time for us to take that pilgrimage, he backed out. He backed out, bro. I've never been to New York, and I've never been on the train by myself. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew where I wanted to go. Right, so I jumped on that train,
I asked the conductor, let me know when I get to North Penn Station. Once I got to North, I asked the bus driver, let me know when I get to St. Rocco's Elementary. When I got to St. Rocco's Elementary, who Brian Crawford? I came here because I got my hole in my ceiling. I came here because I got to take the mice out my house. I came here because I got to fill up the bucket of water in my tub to flush my toilet. It's more than about basketball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, take us back for a second to your relationship with Ray, man. Talk
like
about
I said,
that,
man. Ray family, man. So he's a legend, a Hun legend. Him and Dion, right? I love Ray, right? Like I never aspired to play like Ray. I wanted to play more like Dion, right? But Ray was very instrumental in my development, right? Connecting me with guys like Dion, helping me build my basketball IQ, opening up doors and opportunities, like for example with the North Rams. But the only thing was he was still in college. Right, so he was in Lehigh, so it was only so much he can do for me hands on. But once I got to St. Rocco's and I tried out for the North Rams, I killed it, bro. You know what I mean? I made the team for the 16-year-olds and I made it for the 17-year-olds. So back then, like we wanted to play up. It wasn't about playing that we played up.
Yeah, so now you get up to St. Benedict's. Talk about the whole adjustment of St. Benedict's once you got there and it was time to get on the court and you really saw it. How did like the difference from the adjustment of playing level from playing in Mercer County to playing up there?
Well, first of all, culturally, it was more my speed, right? St. Benedict's is one of the most diverse high schools that I know. Okay. I mean, behind me, I might have a Yugoslavian kid. To the right of me, it might be somebody from Senegal. To the left of me, someone from Lithuania. You know what I mean? Like, so like, they were multicultural. So like I felt way more comfortable in that environment, which allowed me to, be more comfortable as an athlete and a student. But as far as basketball, ain't nothing like North Jersey basketball. Like, no disrespect and no slight to Central Jersey, Mercer County, but ain't nothing like it. Right now, I mean, I remember my first tournament, and I get on the North Rams, and I'm the only kid that's under 6 foot. My shooting guard is 6'6", my small forward 6'8", my power forward is 6'11", my starting center 7'2", and then everybody on the bench is 6'6" and taller. I came back to Trenton and I said, Dawood, you a guard. Right? I mean, everybody in Mercer County, they get excited for a dunk. Bro, we was having 5-6 dunks in a quarter.
Talk about it.
Right? I mean, so the level of intensity, the skill level, the just the competitiveness is totally different. I can tell you, it was games that I played in St. Benedict's, guards that nobody probably would know or ever heard of in this area, but they was tough as nails. Right? It was really no days off. I played my best basketball as a high school student, as a high school athlete and ball player in North Jersey.
Now, who were some of the top guards that you went at and killed? Let's talk about it, bro. Who did you go at?
Oh, I ain't gonna necessarily say no. I went out and I killed anyone, but I definitely handled my business. Because, like I said, man, it was no days off, man. You had to bring your lunch bucket every day, your lunch pail every day. You had to have your boots tied tight every day. So it's guys like, man, Sal Thompson. He went to East Side. He was a dog, right? You got Jerome Holman, Jamal Jackson. He played at St. Pat's. You got Todd. Well, Todd Billy was down in South Jersey, but on the AAU circuit. Obviously, you got Jason Williams. You got what's the Garrett, the guard? You got another kid who went to Barringer. His name is Johnny Rogers. Who else? Then you got, I played against a lot of guards from New York. Kenny Satterfield, Andre Barrett, Talik Brown. Yeah, man. Like I said, it was no days off, man.
Give me some of your top performances, some of your highlights, bro. Some of the joints you was like, yeah, I killed that, bro. Give me a couple of those games.
Okay, I can vividly remember one game against Patterson Catholic. It was a home game, and my brother Mark, he was one of the top players in the country, and the other kid, Deshaun Williams,
Yeah, that went to Syracuse.
With the Syracuse. He was another top guard in the country. So it was this big thing between them two. And then me and the kid named Mike Williams, who went to Patterson Catholic. And it was only standing room only in this game, man. Tom Koskowski came to this game. And anytime RIP Tom Koskowski, man.
That was my boy, man. That was my boy,
big
bro.
thing.
That was my boy, bro. Yeah.
So, and I love games like that because the role players kind of get out the way. They're trying to get out the way. They don't want the ball. They barely want to be in the game. So I thrived in those kind of moments. And we wound up beating them, but it was an epic battle. Another game was on Madison Square Garden TV. Played on MSG. It was called the Super Six. The top 3 teams from New Jersey played the top 3 teams in New York.
The Nike joint, the Nike Super Six. I remember that.
Yeah, we played against the LaSalle Academy. They had a guard by the name of Famous Brown, I believe.
Yeah, I remember him.
Sophomores in the country. So everybody at my school grinding me up like, yo, this sophomore going to give it to you. I'm like, man, I don't care who it is, bro. I'm not letting no sophomore give me no business, man. Like, I'd rather foul out before I let, somebody like this do me in like that, right? And I wound up having a great game. Unfortunately, our best player at the time, he went down with an ACL injury that game. And then the game that you got highlighted right here on the screen, it was the primetime shootout against Rancocas Valley. And I had one of my better performances that game. And my coach, he kind of put a lot of pressure on me right before the tip-off. Right before the tip-off, he pulled me to the side and he's like, man, you see that guy over there? And he pointed to someone who was sitting on the bench. He's like, yo, that's the assistant coach for LaSalle. He only came to watch you play. And I said, all right, I got to turn it up.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a little bit. You guys kind of paved the way before Hurley and them came. And then that thing just went to skyrocketing. Y'all was like the pioneers for the Benedict's thing to like go to that next level, right?
Nah, bro, I'm not even going to take that credit. When I was at Prince today, man, they were dogs. They were
okay.
They had Bilal Rogers, like St. Benedict's had.
Yeah, I remember him.
They had a lineage of great smaller point guards, right? So they had what's the kid that went to he was left-handed. He played against Dion and Ray and them. He went to FDU, left-handed. He a coach now.
It wasn't Bashir came after them. I think I know who you're talking about.
He was before Bilal Rogers. Then Bilal Rogers came. Then Bernard Barrow came. Bernard Barrow was from New York.
Yeah, thanks for educating. Yeah, I vaguely remember all of those teams, but you're right. Now you mentioned
the team the year before I got there. Oh, they were like top 3 in the state, maybe top 10 in the country. They had Bilal Rogers, Howard Roten, Stephen Branch. They were big dogs. They were dogs. So we just kept it rolling.
Good job. So then you was just talking about one of your brothers on the team that was the best player. Let's talk about your relationship with Mark Jarrell, man. With Mark Jarrell, right? Y'all, and how did y'all end up being together and this and that? Let's get into a little bit of that.
Oh, well, Mark, that's my brother. You know how somebody be like, yo, that's like my brother. We take the like out of that. That's my brother.
Wow.
So when I was playing with the Newark Rams, and once they got a chance to see me play, and that Wilbur section dog came out, right? I immediately became the leader of the team, right? Not from being the best player, but I just demanded the respect, right? And Elijah Allen, Dion. Yeah, so I just became the leader of the team, and they like, yo, you should come play with us next year. We need a break. So they told Coach B. Coach B reached out to the coach at Benedict. He came to see me play. He was impressed. Next thing you know, I'm going to St. Benedict's, right? But at this time, they didn't have a lot of dormitories. They didn't have room for their athletes. So what they were doing, they was letting the athletes move in with families. So Mark, dad, volunteered to take me in.
Wow, all praise.
I lived with him for 2 years.
Wow.
And me and Mark literally, like, know what I mean? Right? He was at the head, and my feet was at his head, right? His head was at my feet. We lived in Bellsburg in a bedroom apartment, right? We was grinding it. Now I mean, the man, his father is the only person that I gave a name of endearment as a father figure to. I call him Pops. I never called another man Dad, Father, Pops, except for him, right? Crazy. Because he took on that role. He really brought me in, right? Like Mark used to cook for us. His dad showed him how to cook, right? His dad constantly dropping jewels on us. his dad, right, was on us, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
and how nasty was Mark, for real?
Huh?
How nasty was Mark, for real?
Oh, Mark had NBA written all over him. Like, you couldn't tell me that. Bro, we had a Puma commercial.
Wow.
Like, the man had a Puma commercial. Like, Puma was following us around for like almost 2 weeks. They gave us free Puma gear, right? I mean, they're in the classroom with us. They following us going back to school. They following us at AAU practice. And yeah, go ahead and YouTube it. Google it. Puma. Like
I first met Mark when he got out of college and he was working with Jimmy and them with the players and stuff. And he walked around like he was in the NBA.
he had it, man. I'm telling about, man.
Yeah, he's super.
He was a high flyer. He could do it all, right? He was a high flyer.
Yeah.
He could handle the ball. He could pass. He was arrogant.
Yes, he was.
but he put the work in. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't bother me. I live with him every day, right? So, right. But it got to the point where I was trying to invent alley-oops to throw to this kid.
Wow.
I used to tell him, I'm gonna throw you bad alley-oops just so you can look good. I'm gonna throw it all the way to the top of the backboard. See if you can go get it.
So how did y'all do in the prep ranks, like championship wise and stuff like that?
Oh man, we really like that's one thing that I wish I would have had the opportunity to actually play in the States, because we ain't really, we look down on the prep tournament, right? And in all actuality, my senior year, we actually lost to Princeton Day. But it didn't bother us. It didn't bother us losing to Princeton Day in a prep championship opposed to losing to like somebody like Shabazz in a regular season game.
Yeah, I get it. So
the Shabazz game had more importance than the Princeton Day game.
I get it. I definitely get it. Now let's cross over and talk a little bit about the Rams. Relationship with Brian Crawford, and I snagged that Ram picture when y'all was out in Vegas, man. I surprised you with that joint. Yeah, I see right there, yo.
You pulled that out the archives, bro.
Talk about B, man, because I knew B when I first came in the game, man, and for a brother that really like loved the game and loved the what's name. But I ain't gonna lie, when I was coaching and he ran the States, but I used to always say he was cheating, bro, with the Rams, and I was coaching in the New Jersey States. They always seem to always win, bro. He always
had the talent. Well, no cheating.
To the championship. I used to be pissed when I was coaching.
But not cheating because we just had stacked talent, right? That's about it. But be a legend, bro. Like, he's a legend. You see what he got on his sweat hood, Kentucky.
Yeah.
He's probably one of his players there.
Yeah.
Right, man. Like my whole AAU team for the most part was Division I recruits. I mean, I played with guys, man, like Josh Moore, who wound up going to Michigan. At the time, he was the #1 freshman in the country. I already mentioned Mark. Mark was a top 30 ball player in the country. Right? Then you got a guy like Troy Murphy. Man, when I seen this kid play, I knew he was going to the league. He was unstoppable. And then
lefty. Yeah, he was different. Yeah, he was different.
He's giving you 40s and 50s with ease, like all around the board. Bank shot, 3-pointer in the post. We had 2 plays when I played with the New York Rams. 2 plays. Stack 1-4, right? That's a clear out. Everybody dropped to the baseline and everybody got it. Even Josh got a 1-4, right? And stack to Troy. I mean, get the ball to Troy, everybody get out the way.
Now, talk about some of the top matchups you had in the AAU tournaments, like some of the games you remember, like vividly remember during your AAU days, man.
I remember out in that tournament in Vegas, we played against this team from Arizona. This tall, lanky, light-skinned kid. I had to guard this dude. He was about 6'7". He was the point guard. Everybody on their team was like huge, and it wound up being Richard Jefferson. I'm like, yo, this dude is the point guard. Right? So I remember that game. I remember the Atlanta Celtics. I remember DeMar Johnson. Yo, he was like LeBron James before LeBron James. Like, it was just like pandemonium every time he played. I remember playing in New York. Like, it was always 3 prominent teams, man. The Gauchos, Church, and the Panthers. Right, so we played in IS8, and man, these are dogs. Like, you playing the IS8?
Yeah, with Pete ran that league. Yeah, Pete ran that league. Yeah,
you gonna get a nickname. Either it's gonna be a good or bad. And you can't hide because everybody on top of you, right? Like I said, you know what I mean? But the competition level was stiff. You got guys like Lamar Odom. You got guys like Ron Artest, Andre Barrett, Talib Brown, Kenny Satterfield. What was the guy, the big strong guy that went to St. John's?
Anthony Glover.
Yeah. Bro, like it was like a ball fight. And we was the only team from Jersey.
Indeed. Now let's talk about recruitment. You know what I mean? Because at this time on this joint, you was rated the number 8 point guard in the country. So who was hollering at you and where did you want to go?
So let me correct you. I was not the number 8. I was actually the number 9 available point guard going into my spring signing period. I wasn't even the number 9 point guard in the country. Going into the spring signing period, I was the number 9 available point guard.
But I
was in the top 100 in the country. And at this time, right, I'm getting recruited by a lot of mid-majors. Most of them I never heard of. Schools like Manhattan, East Carolina, Drexel, Colgate, Fairfield, FAMU, Bucknell. I was getting recruited by Wyoming. And I'm like, man, I don't know where these schools at. Right? And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, because it's all about the NBA, right? For me, it was about the money, right? So it's all about, like, I got to go to a school where I can get the most exposure to have a chance at the NBA. Now, granted, I wasn't no LeBron James, so I ain't had NBA written over me. But I had a crazy work ethic, right? Now, I mean, my discipline was crazy. So I'm like, if I could work hard enough, maybe I can get a shot. But I can't get a shot at one of these schools. Right? Now, I mean, at least that's what I thought at the time. So with that being said, I literally was like turning my nose up to those schools. Drexel would literally call, and you know, back in the day we had to call ID, and this is when I was staying at Mark House with him and his father, and I see the Drexel on the call ID, I want to answer.
Wow.
Drexel would come to our practice, and I kind of get him the cold shoulder. I'm like, where? I didn't even know where Drexel was at. He was in Philly. Didn't know.
So what did you think that you should have been at?
I was like, man, I'm at least low-level Big East, high-level Atlantic 10. Like, you gotta imagine, right? I'm playing with all these Division I ball players, right? Me and Mark sleep in the same room our first year, right? And we tripping over letters. Man was getting recruited by every school except for North Carolina, Duke, UCLA, and Kentucky. The man was getting like 100 letters a day, right? And granted, I know Mark was way more talented than I was, right? But in my eyes, I was the best player on the team. Right? I was the leader. Right? Like when things need to get taken care of, I'm gonna take care of that. Right? I know he got the NBA talent and potential, right? He's by far the best player from a skill level, right? But I'm like, I'm right there from a production standpoint. Right? So like I'm at least Pittsburgh, Seton Hall. Right? I'm at least Duquesne. Right? So I'm like, if Atlantic 10 school come my way, I'm gonna sign with them. Right? Other than that, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
So ain't nobody sit you down and tell you like, yo, bro, you kind of might be bugging right now. Like you gotta
What? 2 people, right? My headmaster, Father Ed, right? Father Ed pulled me to the side, and I never forgot this, right? And it registered years later. He was like, man, you stupid. And, you know, Father Ed, anybody that knows
Father Ed, I know Father Ed
is like 115 pounds, right? But he give you a look, and it's like he looking in your soul, right? Like people scared of Father Ed, right? He give you that look, he open his mouth, he like, you stupid. And I'm like, I'm one of the smartest kids in this school, and I don't even study, right? I'm like, stupid. He like, yeah, you think you're a better basketball player than you are a student. And I'm like, I am. Right? I am. Right? But it didn't register. And then my head coach one day pulled me to the side, and he's like, yo, what you gonna do? He's like, where do you want to go to school? And I'm like, I want to go to Temple. Right? Because I used to always hear about Don Chaney at 5 o'clock in the morning practices. I grew up with hard-nosed coaches. I like to be coached hard. Right? And I know I'm gonna need that in order to have a chance to make it to the NBA. I know I got an outside chance, but I need that. Right. So I said, I want to go to Temple. So he got on the phone right there in his office and he called the coach. He's like, my starting point guard want to play for you. And he's like, well, unfortunately, we kind of stacked at the point guard position. But a good friend of mine, he's a top assistant at LaSalle. We're going to send that information over to him. And then that's when LaSalle came to see me play. And I'm like, I'll go to LaSalle. Right? So the next day, I think I had like 35, 37. I might have missed like 2 shots that game. Right? So my coach let me hear the message from the LaSalle coach. And he was like, man, Shane had a phenomenal game. It was a pleasure watching him. We would love to have him on. But we're recruiting a junior college point guard right now. If he can't make the grades, Shane our next option. But he's such a great player, we don't want to hold him up. I just was talking to him to the head coach at Drexel. He want to sign him right now. Right? And that's when Drexel started really pushing. And then I was at camp. I played against Majestic Mac on the main court at Eastern Invitational. I think I gave him like 30. Right? And he was going to Virginia. The head coach from Maryland Eastern Shore was offering me right there. He said, yo, I don't really know you, but I want to offer you. I want to offer you. He said, I'm the head coach at Maryland Eastern Shore. I'm like, Maryland University? You talking about Steve Francis in them? I ain't going no Maryland Eastern Shore.
Wow. So after all of this go on, how did you end up at Mercer?
So I get a phone call one day, and it's crazy, right? Before I get this phone call, the head coach from Binghamton University is in the office, my head at St. Benedict's. And they come and they like, look, this is our first year Division I. We want to make you the face of our program, right? They're like, Mario Ellie went here, you can make it, right? So I'm like, Binghamton, once again, where is that at, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll think about it, right? But I knew I wasn't going there. Right? I'm like, I'm not going there. I'd rather go to junior college before I go to a school that I don't even know the name of or where they at. Right? So I get a phone call, or I was thinking about post-grad. So I get a phone call from Greg Grant. I don't know how he got my number. I don't know how he heard, but he like, man, I'm hearing about your recruitment, and I want to let you know that me and Kelly Williams got the coaching job at Mercer County. So he like, yo, come here for a year or two, and we'll get you where you want to go. And I'm saying to myself, Mercer County, bro, I could have played at Mercer County when I was a freshman. Like, Mercer County, why would I do that? But once again, Greg, a legend. Right? Now, I mean, I got some of my work ethic from watching this man. Right? So I'm saying to myself, all right, I'm following whatever Greg tell me.
Now,
right? So I wound up going to Mercer, and it was one of the worst decisions I made.
Why?
Well, see, a lot of people didn't even know that like I was selling drugs.
That's what you had a whole nother life going on at this time. Now let's take it there. How did all of this come into play? While you this basketball star, you got this stuff going on. You had a whole nother life that nobody really know about. And let's get to that. Like, how did that come into fruition?
Because I love money. Well, the old me love money. Right? I've been a hustler since I was selling candy at the school drives. Ask anybody, nobody sell more candy than me. Right? You know what I mean? And I wasn't the kid that knocked on the door. I was the delegator. Right? I go to my mom, my aunts, my sister. I need y'all to sell 30 pieces of candy. They had their job. They got their friends selling pieces of candy for me. Right? I used to pray for snow. Right? Because in the snowstorm at 10 years old, if I'm lying, I'm flying, I can make $1,000. I don't come in the house and I might come get some hot cocoa, get my hands warm. I'm right back out there. Like I'm getting that bread. I used to sell baseball and basketball and football cards, right? So I always was hustling, right? I loved money, right? So and then I grew up in an era where like your clothes kind of defined you, right? Now I mean, like I said, I ain't have NBA written all over me, right? So like most guys, right? That heterosexual men, I like pretty women. Right? And the pretty women usually was checking for the guy who had the money, and the guy who usually had the money in my environment, in my neighborhood, was the drug dealers. Right? Now, I mean, so the first opportunity somebody presented some drugs to me, I didn't look at it as selling drugs. I looked at it as me about to make some money. Right? And it's crazy because my first connect was my sister. My sister, and really, my sister was like my brother, bro. Like she helped get me tough, man. She 8 years older than me, and we used to fight. Right? She was like both of my older sisters. They both of their boyfriends were drug dealers, so they used to always hit me off. And at a young age, I understood the power of money. So they give me $50, $100 because I could play basketball. I go hit my friends off, take them to the store. It felt good to look out my friends, right? Because we ain't had no money, right? And then the local drug dealers, they putting money in my pocket. And at 9 years old, I was playing basketball for money. They made me play another 9-year-old kid, bet $300 on the game, gave me $200. So I said, they used to give me money to shoot at the top of the key for money, right? Now, I mean, so with that being said, my sister came to me, her and her friend, while I was in high school as a nationally ranked basketball player. Like, look, we got this weed. You know anybody that could get rid of it? I'm like, ding, 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 ding. I'm saying money, cha-ching, right? I know people. They knew I had friends who were already selling drugs. So I'm like, yeah, give me. So what I would do, I would take it home. I'll bag it up with one of my friends, and I would give it to one of my other friends who was selling weed at Trent High, another one that was selling weed at another school. And then I'll come home every weekend, collect the money. You know, I'm living up in Newark. So in my mind, I'm like, I ain't really selling drugs. I'm just making a quick transaction. So I'm not looking at it from that perspective. So that was my first taste of fast money, right? Now, I mean, for a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid who grew up in impoverishment, you know, to make a quick $3,000, $4,000, right? And I'm paying for my teammates' lunch. Feel good, right? Now, I mean, like I said, like I always wanted Iceberg, Coogee, Versace. That was the thing. The girls was checking for that, and I wanted it.
When did you feel like you was ready to take it to another level?
So when I went to Mercer County, I used to be in that summer prior to going to Mercer County, I had a job working construction, right, for a former drug guy who sold drugs in my neighborhood who transitioned into legitimacy. But one of his good friends was one of the big weed dealers in the city. So two of my friends, they like, look, bro, such and such about to hit us off with some weed. We just need $1,000 and he gonna put something on top. So I'm like, all right, how much money y'all got? They didn't know. Well, one of them knew that I had money from hustling, right? So I'm like, well, how much money y'all got? They had nothing. And so I put the whole $1,000 up, and that started our weed enterprise. So we selling weed, right, and just in our neighborhood. So, but I'm at Mercer County, right? I ain't play a game yet, but these students coming up and asking me, kids that ain't from the city, yo, you know anybody got weed? Can you get some weed for us? And I see who the weed dealer is on campus, and I'm like, yo, he ain't no real street guy. Like I could take this over. And that's what I did. I used to have these kids coming out to Wilbur section. Dudes, the drug dealers thought I was selling heroin. I was selling so much weed, right? Now I mean, like I was selling like a pound a day. At 18 years old, I had like $30,000, right? Just by selling weed. So, but the weed slowed up. And so the guy I was getting the weed from, I'm like, yo, I'm already hooked like a bass. I'm hooked with this fast money. So I'm like, yo, weed slowing up. I need something else to sell. So he like, yo, sell this. And what he had in his hand was 100 grams of crack cocaine. And he like, yo, you got enough money. You ain't got to sell to the fiends. You can sell it to your friends who already serving it to the fiends. So that's what I did. I got rid of the 100 grams so fast. I called him back. He like, yo, you done that fast? I'm like, yeah. To find out, they really like crack cocaine in my neighborhood, right? Now I mean, so that became my drug of choice to sell. So I still was going to Mercer County because I wanted to uphold an image. But then one day I'm in practice and I get a phone call for a substantial amount, which I thought was a lot. And I told Greg and Kelly, I'm like, yo, my grandma's sick. I got to go see my grandma. But I was really going to make the sale, and I never came back.
And that's when both worlds clashed.
Yeah, I just knew. I mean, I'm a drug dealer.
Now you full-fledged in the game. What was your ultimate goal? Like, what did you see? Where did you see yourself going with this?
So initially, it all was about materials, right? It started out about materials. It was about the clothes, the cars, right? I used to hustle for cars and never buy them, right? I said, man, I want that CLK. Then I want that Lexus RS. I want the Bentley Coupe, Lamborghini, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before I got to thinking like that, one of the guys who I told you I was working for construction, he pulled me to the side and he like, yo, why you selling drugs? I said, man, I like nice stuff, bro. And my mom not spending no $400 on a pair of iceberg jeans, right? Now, I mean, she ain't buying me no $5,000 chain, right? So he was like, well, if you like nice stuff, you could get a job. He's like, man, if you're going to sell drugs and risk your freedom in life, it got to be for something way more than that. And at that time, I had already spent like $5,000 on iceberg clothes, but I never wore it. I never wore it, right? So that stuck with me. And I kept it in my closet. And I said, when I wear these iceberg clothes, I'm going to be able to buy it 20 times over or more. And I had a different purpose with what I was selling drugs for. So now my purpose became, I'm going to be the biggest drug dealer the city ever seen.
During this time, right, and you got all of this stuff going on, did you have a conscience about what you was doing? And if you did, when did you see that conscience start to fade? Because I remember when I was into alcoholism and fornicating and all of this stuff, when I was going through that my tragedy and stuff, and I remember having a conscience for a little bit. Then my conscience started to fade, and then I ain't had no conscience no more. Then I started liking it. You get what I'm saying? Like, did you go through that transition? Did you ever have a conscience about what you was doing or anything?
Never.
Wow.
But it's crazy because I was the second last person out of my immediate group of friends to sell drugs. In fact, I hated when my friends started selling drugs. When I would come home and I see them selling drugs, I get mad. They used to call me crazy, man. This dude crazy. I go run around Trent High. I go run around Trent High. I'm like, yo, I got to make it to the NBA so my friends can stop selling drugs. A year later, not only am I selling drugs, I'm neck deep in it. Right? I truly didn't have a conscience because, like I said, in the environment that we grew up in, selling drugs wasn't usually looked at from a perspective of immoral. We know it was illegal, but my cousin sold drugs, my uncle sold drugs, my sister, you know what I mean? Like my friend brought, like, so it's right there at your doorstep. Right? And the drug dealers were like heroes. Right? Know what I mean? So like I didn't look at it from that perspective. And then when I actually started selling cocaine, like I said, I wasn't really serving it to the fiends. Right? I was selling weight out the gate. Right? And then once I got to a real high level, I literally thought that selling drugs was my purpose. Like, and it's not just something cool to say. I truly believe that because when you got people telling you that you like in the 1 percentile, you take a step back. And I just being me. Like literally, I had to have one of my connects, which was one of the biggest drug dealers ever in the state of New Jersey. He was like, bro, don't you know you're in the 1 percentile in the world? I mean, he's like, what you buying, the amount of drugs you buying, ain't too many people in the world buying that amount of drugs. So I'm thinking like, and then, you know, I got some of my friends who were privy to kind of what I was doing because I kind of kept things under wrap. Even my friends, like they knew, but they ain't really know. Only a few people kind of really knew. Right? You know what I mean? Because I can get you whatever you want. How many you want? I can get that. Right? And it's mine. Right? Nobody in front of me nothing. It's mine. Right? So with that being said, in my mind, I'm doing a service because like I wear a Wilbur section, I wear Trenton on my heart, I wear it on my sleeve. Everywhere I go, everybody gonna know I'm from Wilbur section, I'm from Trenton. I want to have and uphold it like I got a flag in my hand. I'm gonna be that pillar. So I took that same approach to drug dealing, right? I said, man, I want people to know that the biggest drug dealer, the best drug dealer from Wilbur section, right? And I'm gonna take care of my neighborhood. Nobody got to go across town. Now, I mean, nobody got to know that you fell off because I kept everything private, right? Now, I mean, you fell off, I got you. Now, I mean, and everybody making money, violence is low, right? So in my warped mind, my irrational thinking, I'm saying to myself, I make the neighborhood better when I got a lot of drugs.
Wow. And that's how our mind be warped when we into that type of lifestyles and wickedness and things of that nature because you be so engulfed into it. But like most things in this world, in that game, you know what I'm saying? Like most of these stories and you see, you get like a 3 to 5 year run and then things start to fall apart. Like, did you see things crumbling down or did the end just come out of nowhere?
Nah, man. Like I did because I put together, me and another friend of mine, we put together this big trip. Like 25 of us went to South Carolina and Miami for Memorial Week, right? And at this time, like it was around the time where I counted over $1 million. First time I counted over $1 million in cash, right? I counted like 1.2. I had another 100 something in the streets. I had another 100 something in like several bank accounts. And my next flip is going to take me around 2 million, right? So I'm like, yo, once I get past 2 million, this next flip will get me past 2 million. I'm going to stop selling coke and I'm just going to sell weed, right? So I don't have no drugs at this time. We packing, getting on the bus. And in the alleyways, you see these big NBA cameras. I'm like, yo, y'all see that? Then they came out the alleyways and literally got on top of us and was taking pictures. I'm like, oh, right? So we met somewhere else and they were over there taking pictures. I'm like, oh man, that's the feds. So on our way down to South Carolina, I had never smoked weed a day in my life, right? Most of my friends did. A lot of my friends did. I'm gonna say most. A lot of them did. And they always wanted to see me high because I could be silly at times. So they like always try to get me high, but I would never do it. But we had like a pound of haze on the bus. So I told everybody, man, I said, man, pass that weed. So they thought I was playing. I'm like, give me the weed. So I'm smoking the weed. They're like, yo, you smoking weed? I said, yeah, man, because we all going to jail. I'm like, so I must be high when we in jail because I know we going to jail, right? So I started smoking weed. I was paranoid. And then maybe a couple months after that, a lot of my friends and a lot of people that was on that bus, they got indicted and got locked up by federal agents. But I missed that one. But a year later, I got locked up.
So let's talk about the day when they came to get you. What happened?
So prior to that, a lot of people don't know I had got beat. And by beat, I mean like I had a Colombian cartel connect. And he never would front me, right? I was buying like kilos and kilos from this guy, right? And he never would front me, right? But then one time he like, bro, I'm about to dump it on you, man. Like, it was hot around my way. You're going to get the whole package. I'm like, Lord, I've been waiting for this. I'm about to get to 100, 200 keys doing this, right? So boom, I purchased a certain amount of keys and he fronted me. I had made so much money within like 2 weeks, it just blew my mind. Right, I'm like, yo, if I do this 2 more times, but I never got a chance to do it. Right, like so, I called him to do it again, and I go to his house because he wasn't answering, and he told me he had got locked up by ICE. I did not know what ICE was. I thought ICE was like a local task force or something. Right, so I'm like, bro, well, you can't put me on. So he like, nah, you should quit. He's like, man, you should quit. You made enough money. I'm like, quit, bro. I just got rid of. You know how many keys I just got rid of, right? So. I'm like, I ain't quit. So now you just can't go around the corner and go grab 50, 60 something. Right? You just can't find that around the corner. Right. So I wound up connecting with somebody who plugged me in with someone who had access to that amount of drugs. Right. So I used to have to go down to Atlanta. So I go down to Atlanta and I bust a couple moves and everything went well. But then the next time I got hit in the head. Right. They gave me a package where half of it was fake. The other half wasn't even, it was horrible. So I'm stressing, yo. Like, I'm thinking thoughts that I never thought I would think. Right? So I run back into my original connect, right? And I thought he had got locked up, but I found him, right? I left a note in his girlfriend's mailbox. He reached out to me, and he was like, yo, I never went to jail, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we link up, and I told him what happened. And I still had money, but in my mind, I thought I was broke. I had over $500,000, but I had lost over $1 million something in a deal that went bad. Right. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm broke, right? So I'm like, bro, I need you to front me. I said, whatever I buy, I need you to front me. He can't do it. So I happened to be with one of my friends at the time, and he wasn't there when me and my connect was talking. He was in the car. So when I told him what happened, he like, yo, let's rob him. I'm like, rob him. And I ain't never robbed nobody. I was the most honest criminal in the world, man. People I mean, it sounds crazy, right? But I was, right? This is why people probably trusted me and dealt with me, right? Because I keep your business private, right? Now, I look out. Like, I had people overpay me, and I give them their money back. I did straight business for the most part, right? So I said, man, I ain't robbing nobody. I'm gonna figure this out. Well, some weeks went by, and then he kept getting in my ear, and then he like, man, he don't love you. It's then the third, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna rob him. So I set it up to go rob him for almost $1 million in drugs. I had already made up in my mind that I was ready to die. See, a lot of people in the streets, they'll tell you they're killed, but anybody could do that. Right? If they would have put a gun in my hand instead of drugs in my hand from the beginning, I would have probably been a mass murderer, right? A serial killer. But I got drugs put in my hand because in the era I grew up, it was about making the money, right? So with my back against the wall, I said, you know what? I know once I rob him, he's going to try to come back and kill me or kill my family, right? So I had already made a play. I'm like, all right, I'm going to rob him. I'm going to hire a few people, let them know what's going on. I'm going to move my family down to Atlanta, and it is what it is. Right, so when I'm going to go rob him, I set the deal up to go rob him. I get blitzed by ICE. See, the whole time, the reason why he couldn't front me because he was wearing a wire on
me. Wow.
He was setting me up the whole time. Not initially. Initially, he told me to quit. But when I came back the second time, that's when he was working.
Wow.
And I got locked up by ICE.
Wow. So now
that ICE wasn't no local task force.
so now you behind bars in the you ain't get to the federal part yet. You behind bars, and what's going through your mind?
Well, actually, they handed me over to Lawrence Police. I didn't go to the feds immediately. ICE, like they were confused because they thinking I'm coming to buy all these drugs. I used to come and shop in like military bags. You know what I mean? So they dumping the bags out and it ain't nothing but clothes. They like, oh, he was gonna rob them. So now they call Lawrence Police. So Lawrence Police took over from ICE. They apprehended me and they took me to the Lawrence Police Station. They like, look, man, you know who those guys was? I'm like, yeah. They usually come back and get you. You want to talk to somebody? I'm like, yeah, I want to talk to a lawyer. So the lawyer came in, and that's when I had my complaint. The lawyer showed me my complaint, and that's when I knew my connect had set me up. So I was home for maybe like 3 days, right? I told everybody what happened, right? Now, I mean, I went and started talking to lawyers. One lawyer said they're going to offer you 15. One lawyer said 10. Another lawyer said 15. Another lawyer said you ain't going to do nothing but a year because when I got locked up, they had the guns. They found 2 guns. So that lawyer like, man, all they got is a gun on you. So I'm like, hired. And then 3 days later, they come back and lock me up when I'm coming out my house with my 6-month-old son. So then that's when I went to the feds.
So now you sitting there, and something I heard you say when you was down with, when you were speaking, and you said it to my kids, and it really touched me. Take it to that moment when the lawyer came in and let you know that it was over.
So at this time, I had went through like 3 attorneys, right? I didn't know, like, when the feds got you, they really got you, right? I had got a letter from one of my friends who had been locked up for like a year or so with the feds. And by the time I got the letter, it was too late. He like, yo, don't spend no money on a lawyer. You're going to get what you're going to get, right? So this is my 3rd lawyer, and it's a top-notch lawyer. So I feel very confident. In my mind, I'm going to get bail. All I really want to do is get bail because I still had drugs and money in the streets. Right? I said, I just want to get home so I could clean up, and prepare to go to jail, right? So my third lawyer, she come from a surprise visit, and I can remember it like yesterday, man. She's sitting across from me in the lawyer room, and she got paperwork sitting in front of me, and she like, Shane, I got good news and I got bad news. I'm like, man, give me whatever. She like, the good news is if you sign today, you'll get 10 years. I'm like, good news? I got good news. Right? How is that good news? Like, what's the bad news then? She like, the bad news is if you don't sign this plea agreement today, you're going to get indicted. See, I never got indicted. They locked me up on it, which means they had information, like they had enough information to indict me. Right? So she like, if you don't sign this plea today, you're going to get indicted. The grand jury going to indict you. They got enough information, and your sentence going to go from 10 to life to 15 to life because they're going to charge you 10 years to life for the drugs. And then they're going to run the gun, what they found, consecutive, meaning I was going to have to do an additional 5 years for the gun. And math has never been my favorite subject, but I know 10 years sounded better than 15. So at that moment, I had to make a decision that changed my life, right? Like, so I picked up that pen. I can remember like it was yesterday. The pen was navy blue. It was about the size of my middle finger, right? And I picked it up, and it felt like it weighed 50 pounds. And I put the pages to the last page, and it said United States of America versus Shane West, and I had to sign my signature. And as I'm signing my signature, and I see the ink drying, I'm like, damn. I remember practicing my signature as a kid. I remember saying that my signature was going to be worth millions of dollars, but here now is worth 10 years of life in somebody's federal prison with 5-year probation and a $4 million fine. Yeah. But that moment right there changed my life as well, because once my attorney left, she like, look, you're a smart kid, right? You're going to come out strong, right? She like, you just going to make you, right? She said, go in there, get some education, help change some people's lives because you got what it takes, right? So when she left and was walking to freedom, I could vividly remember she started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And as she gets smaller and like disappeared into the corridor of darkness, right? I realized that, you know what? It's game time. It's game time, right? That moment right there, it felt like the tip off of a game. You know what I mean? I'm like, yep, they got that one. They got the battle. They got the first quarter, right? They got the first game, but I'm going to win the series. I'm going to win the war. And I immediately like transformed. Like I told you, I'm an extremist. So I said, man, nobody in the unit doing more push-ups than me. Nobody in the unit is doing more pull-ups than me. I'm going to open up the word. I'm going to get a little bit more in tune with God, right? Know what I mean? And I'm locked in. I'm not going nowhere no time soon. Before I had hope. Now it's like this is my new Yale has become Yale, right? I'm going to get the most out of this experience. And immediately I went back to the unit, right? We was on lockdown. So my cellie, he was trying to talk to me, but I was in the zone, right? And when I came out the room, I went to the people. I said, man, who could do the most pull-ups in here? So I said, who could do the most push-ups in here? They're like, such and such. All right, before I leave this county jail, nobody doing more push-ups than me. Nobody doing more pull-ups than me. And they laughed because I was just a basketball player. But that's what they thought.
So what happened? Take me to sentencing day. And what happened on that day when, like, with your family and this and that? Like, how was that whole moment? Take me to that day.
I had already begun to prepare, right? Now, I mean, because in the federal system, you don't just get sentenced immediately, right? I was in the county jail for almost 2 years.
Okay.
Right? I was in the county jail for maybe 16 months or something like that. So mentally, I was already preparing for a lot of time. Like my sentence came with 10 years to life. I had never been to prison, right? So the minimum sentence I was going to get was 10. So I was preparing for that. And one, they have a saying in the federal system, you know, you pray for the best and prepare for the worst. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna get 15 years. They're gonna try to give me some enhancement or something like that. Get prepared for 15. So if I do get the 10, okay, it is what it is. If I get 15, you're already mentally prepared for it. So when I went to sentencing, it was like no big deal.
Okay. So now you win. You go to the joint. You inside right now. Take me to your first night in there, and was the place what you imagined it was, and how was that first night that you stayed?
And the feds are just in prison, in jail, period.
And feds.
Well, the feds is bad. Like county jail is the worst. Right? I was trying to get bail, but I'm glad I didn't in hindsight, because county jail prepared me for everything that came after that. Right? Okay. My first 3 months in prison, in county jail, we was on lockdown, bro. I wasn't coming out. They broke me in smooth. So everything after that is like, man, I just did 3 months in Essex County in a room. I wasn't coming out. So it was, I ain't gonna say it was easy, but bro, they got pool tables in the feds. They got TVs in the feds. They got radios. I was in Essex County where everything was gang related. We ain't get no magazines, right? We on lockdown all the time, right? The food is slop. So in the feds, right? You see me, know what I mean? Like I was making Nike sweatsuits. You know what I'm saying? I was playing basketball and with a real uniform.
So what was your daily schedule?
At this time, you know, I was locked in with the fitness thing. So I would get up early in the morning. Like child breakfast was at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I get up 5:30. I go get my breakfast. and then me and 2 other guys who I worked out with. The ironic thing, one of them used to be a cop, right? And he was my cellie, right? So we used to work out together. So I eat breakfast at 6, right? I work out around like 7, work out for about an hour and some change. And then I come back, I shower, might do some reading, might watch a little bit of TV. And then I'll just like kind of like just let the day take its course. I had no real direction, right? But one thing I realized, right, that I did not want to go back to the streets. And my biggest like concern was what I was going to do. I had no idea what I was going to do for several years, and it was like it was eating at me. But one thing I said I need to do is stay away from the frivolous conversations. To stay away from the people who keep talking about, yeah, I'm gonna get this connect. I'm gonna go back out there and I'm gonna do this. I don't want to talk about that. Right? Like, so I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I'm gonna stay away from that. Right. And then what happened was the personal training course came to the institution. And like you only could get enrolled in the program if you were like short, like you had 2 years left in your sentence. Then I had like 6 years left, but I was known in the jail. Like I was arguably the best ball player in the jail, and this jail was like close to Pittsburgh, and you know Pittsburgh love their sports, right? So I'm talking about the captain, the warden. They all come down to watch me and this other kid from Virginia go at it, right? Now I mean, like basketball and the feds, bro. It was like a little NBA to me, right? Now I mean, we took it serious. So with that being said, I had a reputation. Then I had a reputation for working out. I had made a point of emphasis that every jail I go to, they're gonna remember Wilbur section, they're gonna remember Trenton. Right? So I had the biggest store, and everybody that been to the feds, know what I mean, or in college, y'all know what that is. I had the biggest store. Right? You can come get whatever you want. You want a wave cap, I got that. I mean, like, I got whatever you want, right? So I had the biggest store, right? And I'm in the top 5 on the weight pound for pound. And when it comes to that basketball, that's mine. Right? I don't remember the kid from Trenton. You know what I mean? So, but then when the personal training course came, I would send people, right? I was a master manipulator, right? So I would send people to the guy who was running the program. And then I'd come like a week later and I'm like, look, man, I'm trying to get in the course. I don't even want credit. Just let me sit in. And he was like, it's a very tough course. He's like, we haven't got no room this course. It was a 6-month program, but he said the next one, we'll see if we can get you in. And I got in. I got in, right? And then it hit me like, yo, this is going to save my life.
Wow.
It hit me. I said, this is my new drug.
Wow.
So I sat in the front of the class, and the actual teacher was one of my boys, right? He was from New York. He had been down for 15 years. He was a trainer on the street, one of the most intelligent guys I ever met when it came to the science of the body. And I soaked everything in. It got to the point where this dude, he wouldn't call on me. I raised my hand every time.
I get it. I know that feeling. Yeah.
I got 5 questions for him because we ain't got no Google. I got 5 questions for him. What this mean? What this mean? Because I say, you know what? I'm gonna sell fitness when I come home. Because people were already asking me to train them in prison, and then eventually I start running the fitness program for the jail in prison.
So now you got the fitness program rocking. You got that going, and then you started to get with a couple of brothers and open that book called the Bible, man, and talk about your fellowship group that you guys started, man.
So when I finally made it to a camp, right, and the camp is like lower security, you got a lot more freedom, but it could be way more boring than being in the higher security. The level of respect isn't as high, so you got to find things to fill your time. So I got introduced to a few guys because one of the guys I was locked up with at a previous jail, he was already at this jail when I got there. So he started introducing me to people because me and him used to study and read the word and pray. And so he like, yo, we got a unique group of guys. We got a dope fellowship. You're gonna like it. So when I went to this fellowship, I'm like, yo, I like it because it wasn't like a typical fellowship where you opening up and studying scripture. We didn't do that. Right? What we did was we got in a circle. And whatever issue someone was going through, whether it was something at home or something in prison, we would disclose that issue. And then somebody would talk about how they could relate to it and give some suggestions, right? And we'd go around the room trying to help the brother out. And then we would go to scripture and find a scripture that could relate to that issue. And then we'll pray. But we built a bond, bro. Like I'm talking about guys from DC, New York, Detroit, Rochester, man, throughout the country was guys in that fellowship. And I still communicate with them.
That's all blessings, brother. Part of your transformation, what was interesting, was you was a part of this program where part of the program you had to write an empathy letter, or somebody had to write an empathy letter to you. Take us to that point, man, talking about the empathy letter and everything that happened. Is like when the empathy letter came from your mom. Take me through the whole story, man.
So there's a program in the federal system called the RDAP program. It stands for Residential Drug Abuse Program, right? And as long as you don't have no violence in your case, you can receive up to a year off if you complete the program. And it's a very strenuous program. A lot of people take the program just to get the year off, right? People be faking, right? Lying about addiction, lying about certain things. And I was one of them. I didn't think I was an addict, right? I'm like, man, I'm gonna get this year off, right? But when I got there, I quickly realized that the program had less to do with drugs and more about psychology, right? And it started challenging our thinking, and I was intrigued by that, right? So I started really diving into the program, and I went from somebody who was faking it to somebody who was making it, right? And I became like a leader. I became Mr. RDAP. And part of that program, like I said, was a 9-month program. But I got into the program early. So I was there for almost like 18 months in this program. And they hold those inmates at a higher level, higher standard than those who aren't in the program. Part of the program, you gotta write an empathy letter from a perspective of someone who you think you hurt with your drug addiction, right? Or your alcoholism or your life of crime. And I'm like, yo, maybe my mom, right? But it's like she really had no idea to the extent of what I was doing, right? But I knew she knew something because I ain't asked my mom for money since I was like 16, 17 years old, right? I had like multiple cars, I dressed every day. So I knew she knew I was selling some kind of drugs, but she didn't know to the extent. When I got locked up, she was like, yo, who did you kill? She like, man, they talking about you gonna do 10 years to life. I'm like, Mom, remember I was 16, I told you I was gonna be a millionaire? I killed the block, right? I killed the block, right? So when they want theirs back, the feds want their tax, right? So with this program, I'm like, I don't know how my mom feel because she never talked to me. My mom was very private, like she keep her feelings bottled up, right? So they gave you an option to have the person write the letter for you. So I asked my mom to write it and she refused, right? A week later, I get mail. And as I'm reading this letter, bro, I started like crying. Wow. I couldn't control it, like, because what she was saying, it was really touching me because me and my mom used to take care of my grandma. My grandma had dementia, right? So she like, yo, you ain't here to help. I got to do this all on my own, right? When I got locked up, my son was 6 months. She like, you ain't see your son take his first steps. You ain't hear him say his first words. You ain't be here to show him how to be a young man, right? And I'm like, wow. So you got to read your empathy letter in front of your group, right? And there's always people talking about previous groups where people were crying. And I'm like, yo, let me just get this out my system, right? So I read it a few times. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be good. Man, I got up there in front of my group and I could not even get through the letter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a deep thing, man. Because I remember being in rehab the second time that I went, and we had something like that where your spouses and some things or somebody close to you, they had to write an impact letter. So they had to send it to the counselor. So now I'm thinking this is when I was with my second wife and stuff. So I'm thinking I'm talking to my counselors and she telling us about these letters or whatever. So we got big group with everybody, then we got small group, then you got one-on-one.
The same thing, bro.
Yeah, so we're in small group and she talking about it. I'm thinking when the letter come, I'm gonna go to me and her one-on-one. She gonna bring the letter out and I'm gonna read it and we gonna talk about it. Man, I go to small group. It's like 7 of us in there. She prints the letter out. Now, mind you, Shane, I don't know what's on this thing. I ain't even read it yet. She prints the letter out, gets the letter, and just starts reading it in front of everybody. And I'm listening to it. my first time listening to it is everybody else's first time listening to it. And that feeling just breaks you, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you don't have no control over what's in it. You get what I'm saying?
And then it gives you perspective because we typically looking at the game from the perspective of playing it, right? I mean, but when you look at the game from the sideline, from the coach's point of view, and from the fans' view, it's a better perspective. So I started looking at it like, damn, I didn't know I was literally putting my family in harm's way. Here I'm thinking I'm trying my best to provide for them and take them out of poverty, right? But I was putting them in harm's way every day as a big-time drug dealer. People don't want to go in my pockets. They want to go in my home. Right? I mean, so like at the end of the day, somebody attempted to home invade me. Right? I escaped the home invasion. Like people shot at me, at least I don't know if it shot, but people were in masks and hoods. Boom, they brandished the gun, bust the window. I heard a sound. I slipped. I don't know if it was a bullet or not, but I slipped it and I got out of there. But the place that I was at, because I had several stash houses, and I always used the people, people who people would least think. But most of them be my family or friends. Right? If I got a friend that no one knows, like he's not in the streets, he got 10 keys at his house. Right? Know what I mean? If I got a family member that don't even know that we family, they got 30 keys at their house. Right? Know what I mean? So I had a stash house for different things. I had a big stash house. I had a medium stash house, and then I had a every other day stash house because I wasn't making a sale every day. Right? I mean, so with that being said, when I go to that stash house, people waiting on me, and they could have got me if they wasn't so thirsty, right? And from that moment, right, like I never really carried a gun unless I was going to buy, but from that moment, I always kept a gun on me, and nobody even knew. But I put people in jeopardy. Like people could call my family up. Like people could have did something. Like what if someone who actually lived there was there and they got in the house?
Yeah. We put a lot of people in danger and that harm. So now you get to your last night. You know you're getting released. How was that last night?
To be honest with you, man, I don't even really remember too much of that. I remember my outfit. Okay. Right? I remember my outfit. Somebody sent me some jeans, and the CEO was like, "Man, you got some yoga pants back there." You know what I mean? I had some red Balenciagas. I didn't know what that was. I tried my clothes on. I'm like, I'm not wearing this, right, man? My clothes was tight, right? So the tight clothes era, right? So I came home, and like I was supposed to go to the halfway house, but my sister made it stop before I got there because my sister and them came to pick me up. And my little cousin, my younger cousin, and them was like, I'm like, man, these clothes tight. He was like, bro, the pants really baggy, but it was tight to me. Right, but I was excited, to be honest with you, man. I was ready to hit the ground running, man. Like in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm up for the challenge. I made millions of dollars selling narcotics. I'm about to make millions of dollars selling fitness, selling inspiration. Right now, I mean, because I thought my purpose was different in different phases of my life. Right, as a kid, I thought basketball was the purpose. Right now, I mean, then as an adolescent, going into my younger years as an adult, I thought that selling drugs. In my beginning in prison, I thought it was fitness, but I quickly realized that all those things were conduits. Right, where my purpose is actually my pain, my purpose is actually my leadership, my purpose is actually my inspiration, my purpose is actually my tongue. Right, my purpose is actually my testimony. Right, so I started speaking in prison. Right? St. Francis University was literally across the street from one of the jails that I was attending. And they used to bring the basketball team in. The head coach came over to me while I'm sitting down. He like, man, Shane West, I recruited you in high school. He like, man, I would love for you to speak to my team. And I had never disclosed everything about me. See, people knew me for selling dope. People knew me for playing basketball. Very little knew me for both. And no one knew everything. I told no one everything. Right? But this was the first time I let everything out, and it was therapeutic. But more than therapeutic, it was rewarding. It was a feeling as if I was playing in Madison Square Garden again, right? So with that being said, I had the team laughing, I had them crying, but most importantly, I had them thinking. They used my documents. I had made copies. They used my documents for motivation for the season. That was the first time I spoke. Then a year and a half later, before I'm about to be released, I was in this program, right? They hand selected 20 inmates brought in 20 college students from this college named Mount Aloysius. And we talked about how sports impact every facet of life. I was the only one in class that could relate to every demographic you could think of. I went to Princeton Day. I was one of 12 blacks in the entire school. I went to St. Benedict's. Almost every culture you could think of was represented. And then I'm from an impoverished community. Then I'm in federal prison. Every gang, every culture, every ethnicity you could think of is represented in federal prison. And sports is a thread that runs through all of it.
Wow.
Right?
That's a blessing, brother.
Right? So they brought me to the school because students were going back and talking about me. So here I'm thinking, right? I didn't really want to go. So the professor's like, look, man, they really want to hear you. So I'm like, man, I'm about to go home. I don't want to do this. But the professor, really, and she was an Eagle fan. Everybody know me. You know, I'm diehard Eagle. I'm not even a fan. I'm like the 54th man on the team. Right? So I'm whatever. You're an Eagle fan, I'm with you. Then the other thing was like, you know what? I ain't seen no women outside of the staff. I'm going to this college to go look at some girls. So those were my two reasons for going.
Wow.
But when I got there, I was so like thrown off, bro. The whole school was there, thousands of kids. They had the local newspaper there. They had the local broadcasting networks there. And I spoke for about 45 minutes, and this Asian girl came up to me crying. And I'm like, yo, why? I'm talking about bawling. And I'm like, why you crying? She like, you saved my life. I'm like, how I do that? She was like, I was on suicide watch for a week, and my best friend in your class. She said, I need to hear you talk. She said, I need to hear your story. And you make me want to live. You minimize my problems. And I'm like, I was blown away. And the feeling I got from that, I said, I'm going to continuously do this.
I've been there.
I've been doing it since.
I've been there. I remember one of the first times I went and spoke at my grandma's church in Monticello, New York, man. And I told my story. And I told how God had came into my life and touched me. And I talked about the alcoholism and the steps, man. And I'll never forget, this young lady had to be like 22, 23, young, like in her 20s or something like that. Came up to me crying, man. And she was like, thank you, man. And she shook my hand. And I'm thinking she's shaking my hand to by her saying, thank you, man. And she had a crack stem in her hand, bro. And she said, you gave me inspiration that I could stop. And when you start doing that kind of work, that feeling that comes through your spirit, when you see stuff like that, that's when you know you in your purpose.
Yes.
That's when you know this thing is way bigger than you, and he got you on a whole another road. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, exactly. So
people
now
ask me all the time, would I change anything? And I said, I wouldn't change anything as long as I would change a couple things as long as everything remained the same after that. Right? If everything remained the same after that, right? I could get to this point in my life where I can make impact, then I would change a couple things, right? But if I can't get to where I'm at today, which is really impossible because it's hypothetical, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't have the impact that I have, right? I wouldn't have the perseverance. I wouldn't have the resiliency, right? I wouldn't have the toughness if it wasn't for everything that came to my life. For all those experiences, from being a secret, right? From making all that money, putting my life and freedom in jeopardy every day, from losing friends to violence, right? To going to federal prison, right? To losing all that money, right? To doing all that federal time, to establishing different relationships in the federal system, to fitness saving my life, right? To finding my purpose through speaking. I was a very hard person. I had one girl I trained, right? She probably on here. She thought I was a mute. She said, I didn't know you talk. I said, yeah, because you ain't had no business talking to me. Right? Like if we wasn't doing business, what reason are you talking to me? Right? As you see, I talk. I'm either going to talk because I got experience, I got knowledge, I got information that I know can benefit, or I ain't going to say nothing. I'm going to listen. I'm going to absorb. I'm going to observe. And I'm going to learn.
Indeed. And I always say this, brother, and you took it, your testimony of it. I always say everybody got a story. And once that story, you got two things that's going to happen with this story. You either going to use your story, the stuff we went through, as a testimony to help other people, or you're going to use it as an excuse to destroy yourself. And you use that thing as a testimony to help other people, man. And as we get ready to wrap things up, I want to talk about What you got going on now, brother? Take us there. What you got
Well,
going on now, brother?
well, I have my own training facility. West Point Training is actually the only training facility or gym in the city of Trenton. I'm proud to say that because, like I said, fitness it helped save my life. Right, it's my therapy. Right, I got anger issues. Right, I got trauma. We all do. Right. I tell people all the time, my anger didn't go nowhere. I just found better ways to release it. Right, I found better ways to cope with it and deal with it. Right. So that's what I do. I help people transfer their trauma and turn it into something positive, right? And changing your body is a byproduct of changing your mind. Changing your body is a byproduct of changing your environment, right? So we use fitness to have conversations to change people's lives, right? So that's what we do here. I'm actually in my training facility. But not for nothing, I know P. Diddy is getting a lot of slack, a lot of heat, right? He's under a lot of controversy right now. But he's one of my inspirations when it comes to the way he was able to like reinvent himself, right? Right. So prior to incarceration, people knew you said Shane that play ball or Shane that so dope. I said when I come home, I'm gonna change the narrative. The first thing you say is Shane that the trainer or the fitness guy, right? And it happened, right? So now when people see me, they say stop procrastinating. I gotta get to the point, right? I said, but now I gotta change it again. Right, I got to change it again because I'm more than a fitness trainer. That's just a title, right? I train the mind, I train the body, I train the spirit, right? So when people see me, I want my energy and my spirit to hold them accountable, right? Now, I mean, they say I could do more, right? I ain't doing enough, right? And some people that I can inspire. I could be doing a little bit more, right? So that's what I got going on from a standpoint of my purpose. So I'm looking to get more involved with more platforms to speak and tell my story. Like eventually, my goal is to have a school. Right? It's like an ultimate goal. Right? An ultimate goal is to have a school where every student has to partake in both a team and an individual sport. I think sport teach so many life lessons. Right? And then every student has to study a science of the body. So when they graduate, they have a trade. Where they can go out into the world and make some money. Because I promise you, if you would have shown me how to make money selling T-shirts, I would have sold T-shirts instead of cocaine.
Wow, indeed. We need to get that trade out to them and the idea and that they could see it tangible. You know what I mean? We got a couple questions from the audience. Got Chemo Wax. He talked about when y'all played against in the N1 dudes at Trenton High. He said, ask him about when he played in the N1 event against Trenton High.
Oh man, that's around a time where I was really in the streets, but I still was kind of playing basketball a little bit, right? And we played against the N1. I think that was their first season, and I went up against Hot Sauce, and I put a couple moves on him, right? But it was just for fun, right? It was just for fun. Like those dudes, man, some of them really could ball, right? Some of them really could ball, but that was just for fun, man. I mean, I think Chemo was on that team too. Right, and we held our own against those guys, man. And that first team, a lot of those dudes were real ball players.
Yeah, I remember, man, you was talking about Alamo and stuff, and some of the stuff he had when he made some of those kind of decisions before. Another one is Geo Asiatic says, I remember seeing Shane play in the same tournament as Jason Williams. He dropped 33. I was sitting next to Tommy Amick and overheard him saying Jason Williams has a better shot going to the NBA if he goes to Duke. Yeah, he was talking about, I guess he saw you at the prime time. It must have been at the prime time shootout. I remember that. Yeah.
Actually, a few of my friends who came to that game were sitting next to Jason Williams' mother. And it was like, yo, she was just highly impressed. She started cheering for me. Like everybody knew Jason Williams was hands down the best ball player in the country. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like he was the standard, right? I mean, he was arguably the greatest point guard to come from out of New Jersey. We could debate that, right?
Indeed.
Right?
Oh, definitely college. His college career was ridiculous. Like that was that was ridiculous. And Marta asked, how was your mental health going through that trauma?
Oh man, well, honesty is the foundation of change, right? And with that drug program, it gave me some tools that I kind of already had, but I had to just dust off, and they kind of renamed them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I do my best to be very mindful of my word choice. I do my best to think ahead. I do my best to surround myself around certain people, places, and things. Because the trauma is real. Like like I said, I got anger issues, and nobody would probably know it. But I go hit on the heavy bag instead of go drinking the Remy. Right? I go to the gym instead of, you know what I mean, being in the strip club all day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I mean? And with that being said, like when you grow up in these impoverished communities, we tend to suppress our trauma with drugs, alcohol, partying. Like a lot of guys, if you carrying a gun and you're in the streets, most of them is not because they're tough. Most of them because they're afraid. Right? We're afraid. We're carrying guns to protect ourselves. Either somebody want to take something you got, or you did something to somebody. Right? Or somebody close to you did something to somebody. Right? So the trauma is real, right? So we gotta first identify it. We gotta first realize that we have issues. Right? I didn't even know that I was an addict until I was in a program. And the psychologist asked me, how many times do you drink a drug a week? And I was like, not that many. And she was like, well, what's not that many? I was like, well, I only drink a drug when I have sex or a party. And she was like, well, how often do you party and drink a drug? So I had to think about it. I said, now I go to the strip club on Tuesday, go on Wednesday, I go on Thursday, I go to the Excel and the other club on Friday. I drink and drug 6 days after I'm an addict.
Yep. Welcome. Yep. I understand.
Right. So for me, it's about talking, getting it out. You got to talk to people about it, right? And you got to talk to some professionals. I think everybody should have a therapist.
I do. I got one. I just talked to her yesterday. I talked to her like I had one ever since 2009, man.
Yep. And when I was in that program, they made us take like 3 months on the streets with a similar program that was mandatory, right? And once I was done, I wanted to come back. I'm like, y'all can't keep me. Right? So like you got to talk to people, especially a professional, people who are used to dealing with issues and giving you guidance on how to deal with that trauma. But for me, it's the gym. I tell people all the time, it's God, the gym, the Eagles, then my son. Okay? Wow. And people say, how you put the Eagles above yourself? Because it's my peace. It's a place of refuge. I don't care if we win or lose. I do care if we win. But I watch the game because I'm in my own little world. I can pick myself, I can seclude myself, and I can be at peace. Because if I don't have peace, I can't be the best version of myself for my son or for anybody for that matter.
All facts. Next one up, we got Master Chris Hatchell. He got a message for you. 2 bracelets, self-control and patience. I'll never forget that, bro. Happy you can release, bro. Makes me feel good, man.
Yeah, I used to wear these bracelets on my wrist. My mom gave them to me, right? They were actually words from scripture. And so I used to wear them because I knew I was doing I was involved with some illegal activities that any given moment, my life and my freedom could going like that. So like they gave me reminders, right? And I kind of got those bracelets tattooed on me now. Right? So I used to physically wear tangible bracelets, but anybody that know, I'm like fully tatted, right? And I have on my left arm is my case, right? Everything that inspired me illegally and my case. And it's a reminder, right? On my right arm is everything that inspires me from a positive standpoint. And it's a reminder. So when I'm ready to jump off the handle, I call somebody. Right? Because like I said, the anger don't go nowhere. Right? I still got issues. Right? I'm perfect. Right? Know what I mean? So, but when I realize it, right, it's about knowing my triggers. Right? It's about understanding, like, I'm about to go to that next level. Let me call somebody. I'm calling you to talk me off this ledge because I'm an extremist. People who don't know, like they're like, damn, Shane was. They ain't even know I was selling drugs, right? Let alone not too many people know I was going to rob the Connect and I was ready to die. But when you put yourself in these predicaments and you put yourself against the wall, right, with all the trauma that you dealt with, and you ain't got nobody to talk to, and if you do, they just feeding your misery, they just feeding your trauma because they're going through the same thing.
My final question as we wrap up. What do you tell that 13-year-old that's sitting in front of you that has those decisions to make that you made, that's playing on the court, but he got his eye in the streets?
People, places, and things, right? It is so cliche, but people, places, and things. We are the people we associate with the most. We are the things that we consistently do. We are the places that we frequent the most. See, so with everything that I was doing positive, I always found my way back to the block. Right? With everything that I was doing positive, the people that I was hanging with the most were doing a lot of negative things. Right? I was a part of the game, not even realizing I was part of the game. When you say, yo, 5-0, you're being part of the game. Right? Now, I mean, at 12 and 13 years old, I was drinking, but I still play ball. But, no, these are decisions that, one bad decision leads to another. Before you know it, you ingrained, you entrenched. And then you like, damn, you in a fall. I'm telling you, once you get in that fall, you can't see. You think everybody sell dope. You think everybody gang bang. You think everybody, you think everybody in the game, right? The outside world really is like almost kind of non-existent. You're in an incubator, and it's hard to get out. So people, places, and things, man, right? You gotta love some of your friends from a distance, right? And then when you change your thinking, you gotta change your environment with it.
Big facts. Big facts. And we're gonna wrap up with this last question from this person named Arokia McNair. I hope I'm saying her name.
Her name Erikia.
Oh, Erikia. And she asks you this: what is the next stage for Shane? And then what's the next stage for West Point? And how do you keep focus on your goals?
Well, discipline is the number one characteristic for success, right? In my personal opinion, discipline. It's the foundation of all the other characteristics. So I just stay disciplined. I've always been like that, right? It's something that I didn't ask for. It's something that I think God blessed me to have, right? He gave me discipline, and he gave me this feverish desire to be ambitious, right? And to set goals and to accomplish them. But like I mentioned before, West Point training is not a gym, right? That's why I didn't name it West Point Fitness. It's West Point Training, right? So like we a community where we work on helping people change their minds, change their spirit, change their environment, change their thinking, right? So eventually we want to have West Point trainings in a lot of urban cities, right? My ultimate goal this year is to get my name attached to overcoming adversity, to get my name attached to being resilient, to get my name attached to fighting irrationality, right? To get my name attached to all the things that I overcame. So when people are looking for speakers, inspirational speakers, or if it's just somebody that just needs some hope, they're like, oh, the kid from Trenton? Yeah, talk to him, right? I don't care if it's in California, right? Like when somebody mentioned a speaker, someone's mentioning like someone to help change someone's thinking, change someone's life, my name need to be on their tongue.
Oh,
right? So that's what I'm focusing on this year. Like I told you, like I'm reinventing myself, right? Like it's not the fitness trainer. Like, so please don't identify me at I do fitness training, please. So sign up, West Point Training. Now, hit me up on Instagram, West_Point USAFA, right? You can hit the website, westpointusafa.com. You can hit me up on Facebook, same name, right? And we're gonna help you get your body right, but that's gonna be a byproduct of getting your mind right? So that's what we on.
Indeed, brother, man. I want to thank you for coming on, bro. This is exceeded what I even thought. You know what I mean? But I knew once we prayed before we came on, the Most High was gonna bless this situation and this interview, man. And I'm proud of you, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, and I feel the same way, man. Like we were talking. I love sharing my story because I seen the impact that it had. At one point, I didn't think it was anything worth sharing, right? I didn't think it was anything worth expressing and that it could have any kind of impact, right? But I don't watch much TV, right? I watch a lot of documentaries, and I'm inspired by storytelling. I'm inspired by people who had adversity and overcame it, right? And I truly believe energy don't dissipate; it don't go anywhere. right? So I get energy from hearing your story. I get inspiration from hearing your story. Then I pour that into somebody else. So let's keep that flowing, guys.
Indeed, because I look at you and say, I got clients that's in a rehab that I work in, clients that I dealt with in different rehabs, and I always tell them the testing is not what happens in here. Everybody gonna say the talk and do the talk. It's what you're gonna do when you get out of here. And when you got out, man, you really doing it, man. And that's a testament and to you and a testament to what the Most High is using you for, man. So I'm gonna thank you for coming on, bro. Soon as this joint over, I'm gonna send you over the full interview, and then I'll be cutting up highlights and sending them out and tagging you in them and doing that kind of stuff. And you're gonna have a lot of highlights from this, brother.
Okay, cool,
and I want to thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you, man. I thank you for allowing me your platform, and I'm very confident that someone, if not everyone, my goal is to get everybody. I'm like that. I'm like that crab. I'm at the strip fisher. I want all of them, right? So like I'm hoping that whoever listened in, they want to be better tomorrow. They want to be better after hearing this story, this interview, and that's what it's about.
Indeed, man, indeed. And last one, Sleep said that y'all was that you was 0-1 at the Palace when y'all played. What's the name? He'd kill me if I throw this on there before you got out of here,
man. That is Sleep high school career highlight, man. That man had 3 points, right? And 2 of them was a tip-in. And the other one wasn't even his point. They just gave it to him by accident.
Wow. All right, bro, man. So like I said, man. Like I said, I'm gonna send you the stuff when we once we get off, and then we're gonna go from there. We're gonna touch up because I gotta bring you up to talk to the kids because we got a whole bunch of new kids to come in, brother. I appreciate it, brother. I'll be in touch soon, man.
Thank you, man.
All right. I want to thank you guys for tuning in again to In the Spotlight Live podcast. Wow, I want to thank the Most High for giving us that good show, man. And tune in next week. Next week, matter of fact, I'm gonna be celebrating Passover, so I won't have a show next week. So tune in for the week after that, and stay tuned for the highlights for this episode. And stay good and be safe tonight. Shalom.